So especially like in a professional environment, we need to be able to take feedback because then we can know what's working, what isn't working. But if we're so precious and we don't have an internal way of taking feedback, then how can we ever improve? Now, there are a lot of programs now in the corporate world that actually teach people how to give feedback in a way that's constructive, so the person learns from it, in terms of where you tell them, the setting, the context, all those things. Because ultimately, the more you can grow people, the more they will be able to serve the organization, whatever it is. But even in our own lives, when we do something, and it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're 5 or 99, there's always something we're going to be evolving into. So if we build on those things which are naturally there, and then look objectively and go, what else can I change or do to make this easier, more fun, whatever it might be, then we win, and everybody else wins around us.
Yeah. A common question I often get from my clients or even it's managers and things like that, it's how do they give that constructive feedback without offending a person? Or often if a person has to be open to it, it's like how do I create that opening to give the feedback to the person?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. One is you would never do it in public. You always separate the person. You make the place in informal. It might be it might be review time, which is a perfect time to do that. But you can also ask some questions. So Joe, with this project, how do you feel that you're going? So you get their response as to how they feel. And are you having any challenges with what you're doing? And with those challenges, is there anything that I can do as your manager to help you to sort those things out? So if you were to give yourself feedback, Joe, about all this, what would you say to yourself? So the person then can be some self-aware and go, yeah, really, when I delegate, I'm not really good at doing that because I haven't learned that. And so then as a manager, they say, well, we've actually got a course on delegation coming up. Would you like to come and do it? And you can also track things. So let's have another chat in 3 months' time and see how you're going, or a month's time, whatever it might be. And so, but part of it, a very important part of this, is the intention of the manager. If the intention of the manager is to help grow that person, that human being, then sure, you can learn all the words, but it's the intention that will really hold it together. But if the intention is, I'm going to punish you because I don't like you, they can learn all the books, all the ways of what to say, but that intention will still be there and will still feel like this person's attacking me. So the intention is really important, but also there's a whole bunch of online resources you can get up to how to set it up, etc., etc. But if communication is there and you've got a good rapport with the person and they know that you're doing this because you want to help them, then everything else will tend to flow from that. You can learn the other techniques, elsewhere. It's easy enough to do that. But really, it's where you're coming from. And I remember, who was it? Branson. He said, train people enough so they could leave you, and treat them so well that they never want to, which I thought was brilliant. Like, train people so well that they could easily leave you, but treat them so well that they never want to. And often in the corporate setting, people say, they might have a description or a vision, whatever, and you cannot tell people to put their heart into something. But what you can do is create the culture around them where people naturally want to put their heart in, because they're celebrated, because they're recognized, because they're acknowledged, because they're given a power of making decisions within their role, or they've got an opportunity to influence things. That's what will make people stay. So, and leadership has got a, we could talk about leadership for a long. It's probably another conversation.
What you're saying is you're expressing how important it is that you show care and concern, like that.
Absolutely.
Intent. I same thing. I preach that all day long. It's the intent of the conversation. It's the intent of what you're doing. Otherwise, what's the point? You know. it's aimless otherwise. But
Yes.
in your book, you mentioned there were several childhood stories like of how they influence your direction.
Yes. So when I was in primary school, I had two of my favorite teachers. And yes, so I'll take the first one. When I was, one of my favorite teachers, Miss Surtees is her name. She won't be alive anymore. And she's teaching all the kids how to sing. So I'd never sung before, and we all wanted to be in the choir because that's a cool thing to do. So I'm, I don't know, 7 or 8 years of age. And we're all in a line, and we're singing our little hearts out, and she walks along, and she listens to every child and says something to them. And she whispered something in my ear, and what she said just went straight to my heart. And it made such an impression on me, and it influenced probably next 30 years of my life.
Wow.
Now, I won't tell the ending of the story because there's more detail in there. And the other one, same primary school. And this teacher was a Mr. Sargent. And he taught us maths and he taught us English. And we all had to write a descriptive essay. So I picked a magazine, and there was, so this is in England where I grew up, that part of my life. And there was a forest scene, English forest scene, a squirrel running up an oak tree and stuff like that. So I wrote my essay. And then when he was marking them and he was giving feedback, and he said, you know, of all the essays that I've read today, there's one that stands out. And then he said something. And what he said has influenced my life ever since then. Now, again, I won't tell the ending of that story because it kind of spoiled the other little bits. But the point about this is that these were two innocent events. Something happened, the teacher said something, and I made meaning of those events. So what I'm about to say here is probably the most important. If I was to give a concept, this is probably the juiciest one that I could offer your listeners. Yeah. Every event in life, so just going back, my mentor, John Barnaby, who was teaching me all these things about transactional analysis, went for a whole year. Every weekend, pretty much, we'd do a workshop. And one workshop he put on the flip chart, he said, life is meaningless. And we're going, what? Life is meaningless? You know, we're here on this journey of self-discovery, and you're saying life is, what the heck are you talking about? Anyway, what he said was that every event in life is innocent, is meaningless. So, for example, I'm walking down the street, I see someone I know, I wave hello, they totally ignore me. That's purely an event. But in my head, I can make all kinds of meanings about that. Why do they ignore me? Don't they like me? Maybe they've never liked me. Hey, maybe no one's ever liked me. No, and I can crank it up. And that's just one meaning. So every event, you could have at least 10, a dozen, 100 different meanings. And he said, so while the event itself is innocent, is meaningless, as human beings, we are compelled to make meanings out of stuff. And he said the meanings that we make become our reality. So if the meaning I made from that person not acknowledging me was maybe there's something wrong with me, that's a reality that I would create, and I'd come from the space of being worthless. Another meaning I could put on that same event is, wow, he was really distracted. I might just check in with him later on in the day and see if he's okay. Completely different meaning and completely different set of circumstances that would come from that. So every event is innocent. We are meaning-making machines. We can't help ourselves. The meaning that we make becomes our reality. And he said, the meanings that we choose are always self-chosen. So I choose whether it's this meaning or that. Nobody else does. I am responsible for the meanings that I place on every single event in life. And the kicker, the real punchline, he said, it doesn't matter whether the meaning that you're making is true or not, because that's always debatable. He said the real important thing is the meaning that you're making useful or not? And if it's useful, keep it. But if it's not useful, find a way of dropping it. And so I learned the theory, and then I had an experience not long after that with my girlfriend at the time. And she said something to me, and I immediately started making a meaning out of that, which was not particularly useful to me or to her. And I'm going, So I became self-aware of the meaning that I was choosing. And if I'd gone down that path, would have had an argument, whatever. And so one of my defaults now, if I'm upset by anything in my world, I know I've made a meaning out of something. And I need to go deeper to find out what the meaning is and what's underneath that and what's in it. And if I can find the meaning that is underneath all those layers, then I can ask myself, is this useful or not? And if it's not useful, drop it.
Mm. So
and your listeners will have an opportunity to put this in place almost immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it just illustrates how much, self-development and self-discovery you've gone down, and to identify these childhood events that had happened in your life, whether it be positive or negative, that these two teachers had expressed some sort of feedback to you, and you said it stayed with you for
a long time. Yeah, and one was positive. Well, I made one positive and one negative, but both influenced my life. And so it's like, when we're young, we're a blank slate. There's nothing on it. Whatever is said, especially if we hear someone else saying something about us and they don't know we're hearing it, that becomes indelible. We're listening to our parents talking to their friends about us. They don't know we're at the door hearing the conversation. And they say, whatever they say becomes emblazoned in our bodies and in neurology. And sometimes it can be good, sometimes not so good. So, but ultimately we need to learn to become sovereign human beings, choose the bits of us that we keep and let go of the stuff, other people's opinions, or simply not useful, because that's the only way we're really going to become bulletproof. And it is a journey. It's like all these things are learnable. I learned from other people, so they're all learnable. They do take a little bit of time to become embedded in behavior, which is automatic, which is really where you want to get to.
Yeah, and you have to practice these things. So, we can take these golden nuggets away today, but we have to actually implement them and practice them for them to be useful.
Yeah, indeed.
Which is, you speak about the three key concepts for takeaways from your book, which we've already, I believe, probably touched upon quite a few of those.
We have
today. Is there one that's missing, or have we touched?
No, but let me just reiterate them because it's really worthwhile. And the first one is the difference between a fact and an opinion. So if I don't know the difference between a fact and an opinion, then I'm gone. And especially when I hear a politician say the fact of the matter is, I know what they're going to do is they're going to give me their opinion, which is biased towards whatever it might be. So, but being able to distinguish as a fact or as an opinion. And underneath that is whose opinion about me is more important. Is it going to be some troll on Facebook or social media that said something and we're going to make their opinion about me more important than my opinion about myself? That's the second one. It's kind of related. And the third one is that everything is innocent. Every event in our life is totally innocent. And this took me a little while for me to really understand, because when I first heard it, it was a big shock. What do you mean everything is innocent? What about this and what about that? And I'd give all these examples of what's happening in the world. But when I really pared it down, it's my response to something else that's going to become my reality. And if I'm not in charge of my emotions, my thinking, my action, then I'm somebody else's puppet. And my ego didn't like the thought of being somebody else's puppet. I'd much rather be my own puppet. So if your listeners can just take those things and explore them, and you don't have to take my word for these things being true. But it's in the experience and the doing of it that you'll work out how useful it is.
I love the word innocence. Like it really, I just taken away with that word in itself. So I think it just opens up, that childlike innocence, that unbiased, they're just curiosity and mystery. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that summarizes it perfectly.
Yeah. And in fact, if I just come back to being superhuman,
Yeah.
I reckon 5-year-olds
Mhm.
have got the key to being superhuman. They have this incredible energy. They have no boundaries, which can sometimes be a difficulty for the parents. But it's just like their innovation, their creativity, their innocence about things. And if anyone's going to be superhuman, I reckon we've got to get back to being a creative 5-year-old and bring that energy into our life. Because without it, we're bland. Like, we're beige.
Yeah, I think a lot of where I'm at right now is my ability had to have reconnected with my little Ria,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and getting and finding that love and again curiosity for the and innocence and fun
Yeah,
back into the Ria I am today. That's really, yeah, I don't know, just unleashed
yeah.
a love of life and a love of me again. I think that's
Indeed. Yep.
really, really important.
Yeah, that's what makes us superhuman, is our little 5-year-old that just, Batman, Batgirl, all these kind of things that just like that energy. It doesn't matter. I've met people in the 80s and 90s that are still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because they've got this wild, free child inside of them that they're still tapping into. And I met people in their 20s that you just go, wow, what happened to them? Like, so part of aliveness is that little part of us that's just so full of curiosity, wonder, awe, all these kind of things, which is just the most precious part. I believe, my opinion is, of a human being is that little child, that one that just lives life full of wonder.
Yeah, I love watching children play. But even as you were saying that, it just reminded me of that saying that, a lot of people die at 25 and are buried at 70, because they just let their dreams just leave them, and they don't do anything about it. But you speak a lot about, you and I do too, our mentors, importance of mentors, learning from people. Why, in your opinion, do you think it's important to have mentors?
Well, because when we're 20, 25, 30, 35, whatever age we are, there's always someone that has been there before us and knows the kind of things that can give us guidance. There was one story I love about the old lion and the young lion. I don't know if you heard the story or not, but it's like there's this old lion and he's got scars, he's been battled, he's been through all this kind of stuff. He's sitting on a little hill and he looks and he can see this young dude, this young lion. And he looks at the young lion and goes, wow, I remember when I was like that, full of piss and vinegar and all those kind of things. And I'd love to tell him some of the stories, that my experience in life, or maybe just help him along. Anyway, zoom down to the young lion and looks up and sees the old lion and goes, wow, look at that bloke. He's just been around for so long. Those scars, the stories that he could tell me. But he probably wouldn't want to talk to a young bloke like me. And I think there is value between old lions and young lions actually connecting together because they give each other gifts. The old lion gives a gift of wisdom, of experience, of insights that the young lion will never be able to have until they get to be that age. And the young lion, of course, gives that innocence, that youth, that unlimited horizons, which the old lion has lived through. And it's like, a lot of very wealthy, successful people find ways of giving back because they really acknowledge the struggles that they've been through, and now they've got whatever it might be. And there's I think it's a natural human thing to want to give back to, the people that have been where you've been in the past and would have loved to have had mentors. I've been very blessed with having some very wise mentors that obviously either saw something in me or liked me or whatever. Or they might have seen the mess I was at, I don't know what, but it doesn't really matter. But it was, I'm really glad that they said, hey, Bill, go down this path or explore this. They wouldn't tell me what to do, but they'd open doors for me to say, go look at this, go explore that. I think there's something there for you to find. And from an older person now, mentoring some people, it's such a pleasure when you see someone that's got some talent or some gifts and you can help shape or give some guidance to, And it's a gift on both sides. Both parties win. And my daughter now, she's 32. She's had some very good mentors in her career. And it's like it's a network of people that you can call on and go, hey, this is what's going on. Give me some guidance here, or give me some pointers. And that's priceless. That's priceless.
Absolutely. I definitely couldn't agree more. You made a comment, and not on this conversation, but I read this elsewhere, that there's a second wind in life.
Yes.
And I have to say, I tell a lot of people off that are in their 40s, 50s, or even 60s. It's too late for me, Ria. There's nothing. I've had a good life. This is the home stretch now. And you make a comment about it's never too late to be a legend. And I just picked up, I love that. So why is it never too late to be a legend?
Because if we're breathing, if we're still alive, there's still stuff that we can add into life. And I've seen a lot of people, when they get to a certain age, they go, that's it, I'm done. And it's almost like their 5-year-old has just been kicked out of the room. And the 5-year-old is always wanting to explore. So the second wind, like if any of your listeners have done any kind of sport, running, swim, doesn't matter. You'll get to a point where you get to, you hit the wall. And if you go past it, then you literally get a second wind. And the second wind is stronger than the first wind. Because now you've got all the experience of the first wind and you've gone through all the pain. When you get into the second wind, things are easier. But if we just stop there and go, that's it, you're dead. And people literally, the stats will tell you when people retire and they don't find something else to do, they'll die within 6 months. They become sedentary, they lose their spark for life because they've been doing whatever it might be that gave them purpose. And if people are purposeless, they die.
Yeah.
And so the second wind is like, I don't care how old someone is. You can be 99. I live in an eco village here in Currumbin Valley. And one of our neighbours, he's, I think he's 94 or something like that. He's a bright, sparkly gentleman. He gets involved in stuff. I'm going, I want to be like you, I want to be 94 and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and still doing the stuff, which means that I still have vitality. And if we don't have that spark, that 5-year-old vitality, we're basically on a slow slope down into the sea.
Yeah. Yeah, age is not a limiting factor, I think.
No, absolutely it isn't.
Get a little lost on their way, or they're, not as inspired to be doing what they're doing, and they just need to reconnect to themselves, and it brings them, that purpose or brings them joy to their life.
Yeah. And actually, as you're speaking, your hands around your heart.
Yeah.
And when people are connected to their heart, that's when they connect to deeper purpose. If people are disconnected from their heart and they often get stuck in their head, that's when they disconnect from the joy of life. So part of finding your second wind is literally putting your hand on your heart and closing your eyes, breathing into your heart and saying, hey, heart, I'm still here. What do we do next? What's our next adventure? And then they can explore whatever comes up, because something will always come up. There's always another way that we can evolve into another finesse part of us, or maybe whatever it might be. But our human spirit wants to be engaged in this life.
Yeah, definitely. And I, as an author, you can connect to, the chapters of life. And I've got clients in their 60s that are just like, well, this new chapter that I've opened up now.
Yeah, indeed.
And they make it sound more exciting than just like the down. This new chapter going on.
Yep. And there's always, I don't know if you're familiar with The Hero's Journey, Joseph Campbell's work. Yeah. So we're always, and if your listeners don't know what this is, then just go search Hero's Journey and find a whole bunch of information. But we're always in a hero's journey. There's always some other adventure that our spirit wants us to get engaged in. And for me, if what I'm doing isn't a game worth playing, well, then it's time for me to go deeper into my heart and go, what is the game that my heart really, truly, deeply wants to play? Because that's where the joy is. That's where the buzz is. That's the energy that keeps me alive and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
That's awesome. This has been wonderful, Bill. Thank you so much for everything that you've brought to the listeners today, and examples and just your wisdom that you're now sharing with everyone in how they can better themselves in their lives. And so a question that I ask everyone that's been on the show is, what does summoning your superhuman mean to you?
The thing that came to mind was a Bee Gees song, Staying Alive.
Yeah.
That's what it does. It helps me stay alive. So the more connected I am to my heart, the more love, joy, bliss, all those things are in my life. So staying alive and staying awake.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for being on the show today. I
My
can't wait
pleasure.
for everyone to get a listen of this, and I will put everything, everywhere you can get in contact with Bill in the show notes. I can't thank you enough for your wisdom today, and it's been wonderful connecting with you.
It's been my absolute pleasure. I've been love talking to you. Obviously, we've got so many things in common. We could probably talk for another hour, but
I believe we could. Maybe on the next book.
Okay, let's do that. Oh, by the way, there will be the spin-off for this book.
Yeah.
Will be another 5.
Oh, wow. There you go. So it'll be a series.
There will.
Well, then there definitely will have to be a part 2, I'd say.
Good. All
Well,
right.
thanks again for your time today, Bill. Thank you.
My pleasure.